What if I told you that your biggest battle isn't with the world around you, but with the impulses inside you? That the urge you feel, that craving, that pull, isn't something you're just helpless against. You can actually control it. The problem is that most people don't know how to. Now, pause for a moment and think about it. How many times have you tried to break free from your impulses, only to find yourself back in the same cycle? It's frustrating, isn't it? But here's the truth. If you don't learn to control your impulses, they will control you. And if you let them, they can steal your peace, your happiness, and your relationships. But what if there's a way to break free from that cycle? What if you could find inner peace and regain control? In this video, I'll show you how Stoicism, a philosophy that stood the test of time, can help you take back that control and break free from the addiction that's holding you back. Today, you're going to learn practical, actionable techniques to build mental resilience, master your emotions, and overcome addiction. No more waiting, no more falling into the same traps. Stick with me till the end, and I'll share a simple yet powerful Stoic technique that will leave you wondering why you haven't been using it all along. Ready to take control? Let's dive in. Topic 1. Understanding masturbation addiction. Masturbation addiction is a struggle that many people face, often in silence. It begins as a natural impulse, but over time, it can spiral into something that controls a person's thoughts and actions. The truth is, for many, it becomes more than just an occasional activity. It evolves into a habitual pattern that they feel powerless to break. And let's be real, when it starts affecting your daily life, your relationships, or your mental clarity, it's time to face the reality that it's no longer just a harmless behavior. The cycle of addiction is insidious. Initially, it might seem harmless, a way to relieve stress or pass the time. However, over time, it begins to offer a sense of temporary relief or escape from emotional discomfort. But here's the catch. The more a person relies on it, the less capable they feel of dealing with their real problems. And what starts as a small indulgence quickly turns into a coping mechanism. Eventually, this leads to feelings of shame, guilt, and a loss of control. The person becomes trapped, unable to break free from the cycle of impulsivity and self-satisfaction, which ultimately erodes their sense of self-worth and their ability to form meaningful connections with others. Think about it. When was the last time you tried to quit and felt that sense of temporary victory, only to find yourself slipping back? It's frustrating, right? And often, it leads to more stress, making the cycle even harder to break. The temporary relief doesn't last, and soon, you find yourself right back where you started, feeling like you've failed again. It's a vicious cycle, where each slip-up feels like a setback that erodes your motivation even further. But what if I told you that there's a way to regain control? A way that doesn't require harsh self-criticism or willpower alone. A way to address the root causes, instead of just managing the symptoms? This is where Stoicism comes in, an ancient philosophy that offers powerful tools for understanding and overcoming addiction, particularly when it comes to self-control. Stoic philosophy doesn't just tell you to stop doing something. It teaches you how to rewire your approach to desire, control your impulses, and build mental resilience over time. The beauty of Stoicism is that it doesn't view addiction as a weakness, but as an opportunity to practice virtues like discipline and self-mastery. Instead of focusing on the failure, Stoicism invites us to focus on what we can control, our reactions, our mindset, and our choices. By embracing Stoicism, you don't have to see addiction as an insurmountable obstacle. Rather than viewing it as an uncontrollable force, you begin to recognize that you can control how you respond to it. The focus shifts away from the struggle and towards empowerment. With a Stoic mindset, you start to understand that every impulse is an opportunity to practice self-discipline, and every moment of temptation is a chance to build mental strength. So how does it work? Stoicism teaches us to break down our emotional reactions and impulses in a way that allows us to gain control. By understanding that our desires are fleeting, and that true fulfillment comes from within, we can change the way we approach situations that trigger these impulses. It's not about denying yourself the pleasure. It's about learning to choose when and how to indulge, without allowing it to take over your life. Do you see how this works? Stoicism doesn't fight the impulses. It changes the way you relate to them. It's not about repressing or ignoring them. It's about understanding them and redirecting your energy towards something more fulfilling. Ready to dive into the next level of self-control? Let's move on. Topic 2. The role of self-control in Stoicism. Self-control is at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it's one of the most powerful tools you can use to overcome any addiction, including masturbation. For the Stoics, it's not about suppressing desires or denying yourself pleasure. Instead, it's about understanding what is within your control and learning how to choose wisely. The Stoic mindset teaches us that our emotions and impulses, while natural, do not define us. What defines us is our response to them, and that's where self-control comes into play. In Stoicism, self-control is not seen as a punishment, but as a path to freedom. The freedom to choose your actions, the freedom to determine your responses, and the freedom to stop being enslaved by fleeting desires. It's about mastering yourself instead of letting your impulses control you. This idea goes beyond just saying no to harmful behaviors. It's about cultivating an inner strength that helps you face discomfort with resilience and purpose. Imagine how liberating it would feel to no longer be at the mercy of your impulses, to feel empowered in every decision you make, no matter how challenging the circumstances may be. To illustrate this, let's think about Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers. He often wrote about the importance of maintaining control over our thoughts and actions. One of his famous quotes is, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea was central to his life as a ruler and a philosopher. Marcus wasn't trying to avoid hardship or challenge. Instead, he sought to control his response to whatever life threw his way. And that's the key. When you master your thoughts, emotions, and impulses, you take back control of your life. The ability to choose your response, even in difficult situations, is what empowers you to face life with clarity and purpose. Now, think about your own struggles with control. Maybe it's the overwhelming urge that comes up at the most inconvenient times, or perhaps it's the overwhelming guilt afterward. Stoicism teaches us that these impulses are natural, but they don't have to control us. With practice, you can choose how to respond to these urges, and with enough mental fortitude, you can regain control over your actions. The key here is understanding that the impulse itself is not the enemy, it's the way you react to it that matters. By not allowing your feelings to dictate your actions, you become the master of your own fate. So, how do we build this control? It's not a matter of willpower alone. It's about creating the right mindset, one rooted in self-discipline and mental resilience. A simple way to practice this is through mindfulness. When you feel the urge coming on, take a step back and become aware of what you're feeling. Recognize it without judgment. Then ask yourself, what is truly in my control here? This is a key Stoic practice, not reacting impulsively, but rather responding with intentionality. This allows you to break the cycle and regain control. It's about noticing your thoughts and emotions in the moment, but choosing to act with purpose rather than on impulse. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes to respond with control. Self-control in Stoicism isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, being intentional, and being present in the moment. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to stay grounded and focused, even when faced with temptations. And that's the foundation for overcoming any addiction, whether it's masturbation or any other destructive habit. Each moment of choice is an opportunity to build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Now that you understand the power of self-control in Stoicism, you might be wondering how this philosophy can help you even more. What other techniques can you use to shift your mindset and build mental resilience? That's exactly what we're going to explore next, with some practical tools for applying Stoic techniques to overcome bad habits and strengthen your mental resilience. The path ahead is one of continuous growth, and Stoicism offers us the perfect roadmap. Ready to take this deeper? Let's dive into cognitive behavioral techniques within Stoicism. Topic 3. Cognitive behavioral techniques in Stoicism. Cognitive behavioral techniques, or CBT, are rooted in the idea that our thoughts shape our emotions, which in turn influence our behaviors. In Stoicism, this idea is not just accepted, it is embraced and expanded upon. The Stoics believed that by mastering our thoughts, we could change our emotional responses and, ultimately, our actions. This is where the power of cognitive techniques becomes a game changer in overcoming addictions, including masturbation addiction. One of the most powerful Stoic techniques for controlling your thoughts is called premeditatio malorum, the practice of visualizing worst-case scenarios. Now, you might be thinking, why would I want to visualize the worst possible outcome? Well, the purpose is not to dwell in negativity, but to prepare your mind for challenges. By anticipating difficulties, you can build resilience and mentally prepare yourself to respond with clarity and composure. In the context of overcoming addiction, this technique can help you reframe the moment of temptation. Instead of acting on impulse, you can pause, visualize the consequences of your actions, and make a conscious decision to choose a different path. This mental preparation can make the difference between giving in and standing firm. Think about a time when you felt the urge to give in. If you had paused for a moment and thought about the long-term effects of that action, not just the immediate pleasure, but the shame, guilt, or even the disappointment in yourself afterward, would that have shifted your behavior? This simple act of reflection is a key element of Stoic practice and can break the automatic cycle of impulsive action. It brings awareness to the moment and creates space for you to choose a more constructive response. Imagine how powerful that could feel. The next time the temptation arises, you pause, take a breath, and remind yourself of the consequences. That mental gap between impulse and action is where self-control is built. Another crucial technique is the practice of journaling. This is not just about writing down what happened during the day. It's about reflecting on your thoughts and actions, identifying patterns, and challenging the beliefs that fuel your destructive behaviors. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, said, "We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens." When you journal, you have the opportunity to examine your thought processes. Are you reinforcing negative patterns of thinking? Are you allowing yourself to believe that you are powerless? Writing things down allows you to take a step back, reflect, and reframe your thinking in a more productive way. This act of reflection makes your thoughts more conscious, giving you the power to change the narrative in your mind. If you're serious about making change, you can begin by writing down every time you feel the urge to give in to your addiction. Be honest with yourself. What are you thinking at that moment? What emotions are surfacing? By identifying these thought patterns, you can challenge them. You might realize that many of your beliefs about the addiction are not rooted in reality. They are simply stories you've been telling yourself. This awareness alone is powerful because it gives you the mental space to make a different choice. Instead of letting the addiction define you, you now have the clarity to see it for what it is, a passing impulse that can be controlled. There's also a Stoic technique called amor fati, or love of fate, which means embracing whatever happens as part of your personal growth. Instead of resisting the urge, you accept it as an opportunity to practice self-control. Every time you face a temptation, instead of feeling defeated, you can choose to see it as a chance to build your resilience. By accepting that you will experience these urges, you can reframe them not as failures, but as milestones in your journey toward mastery over yourself. The more you apply this mindset, the stronger your mental resilience becomes. It's not about wishing away the temptation, it's about using it to your advantage, building mental strength through every challenge. By using these cognitive techniques, you are retraining your mind to respond to temptation not with impulse, but with deliberate control. Each time you practice, you are building mental strength, gaining confidence in your ability to manage your desires, and reinforcing your Stoic mindset. And as you strengthen your mindset, you also begin to align your actions with your long-term goals and values, rather than short-term pleasures. This shift in focus from immediate gratification to long-term fulfillment is the key to breaking free from addiction. Now that you understand how cognitive techniques can help you overcome your impulses, the next question is, how do these techniques fit into the bigger picture of your life? How do they align with your long-term goals? Let's explore how Stoicism teaches us to focus on the bigger picture, the long-term rewards, rather than the fleeting pleasures of today. Ready to shift your focus to long-term goals? Let's dive into that next. Topic 4. Stoicism's focus on long-term goals. In a world full of instant gratification, where everything from food to entertainment is just a click away, focusing on long-term goals can feel like an uphill battle. But this is where Stoicism truly shines. The Stoics understood that our desires, while natural, are often in conflict with our long-term happiness and personal growth. They didn't focus on avoiding pleasure. Instead, they taught us how to align our actions with our higher values and long-term goals. And this is where Stoicism becomes a powerful tool in overcoming addiction, including masturbation. When you focus on long-term goals, you shift your attention away from the immediate pleasure or relief that comes with impulsive behaviors. Instead, you start to make choices that align with your deeper values and long-term vision for your life. In the case of overcoming addiction, this means choosing the long-term benefits of self-discipline, mental clarity, and personal growth over the short-lived pleasure of giving in to temptation. One of the core concepts in Stoicism is the idea of eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or living in accordance with virtue. The Stoics believed that true happiness doesn't come from fleeting pleasures or external circumstances, but from living a life of virtue and fulfilling your potential. This aligns perfectly with overcoming addiction. Rather than focusing on the immediate desire for release, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what truly brings us fulfillment, mental clarity, emotional regulation, and growth. Every time you choose your long-term goals over short-term pleasure, you are building a life that is in alignment with your true self and the person you want to become. The path to personal growth is rarely easy or quick. Think of it like planting a tree. When you plant a seed, it doesn't immediately sprout into a full-grown tree. It requires time, care, and patience. Stoicism teaches us to embrace this process. Success in life, whether in overcoming addiction or achieving personal growth, doesn't happen overnight. It happens one step at a time, through consistent actions that align with our higher goals. In the case of overcoming masturbation addiction, the Stoic approach would involve recognizing the bigger picture of your life. What do you want to achieve in the next 5, 10, or 20 years? How do your actions today align with that vision? When you focus on your long-term goals, you start to see addiction not as something that defines you, but as something that stands in the way of your greater potential. And the more you align your choices with your goals, the more motivated you become to make healthier, more fulfilling decisions. Take, for example, the journey of someone who decides to focus on building a successful career. Every decision, whether big or small, is made with that larger goal in mind. In the same way, overcoming addiction requires a shift in perspective. It's not about merely resisting the urge in the moment. It's about recognizing that by overcoming this addiction, you are aligning with the person you want to become, someone who is in control, focused, and capable of achieving their long-term goals. And while the journey is never without challenges, the Stoics believed that every obstacle is an opportunity for growth. The struggles you face on the way to overcoming addiction are not setbacks, but steps toward your higher self. The more you endure, the stronger you become. This is the essence of Stoic resilience, facing hardships with a clear focus on the long-term goal and using them as opportunities to build inner strength. Now, as you begin to see how focusing on long-term goals can transform your approach to addiction, you might be wondering how to put these principles into action. What steps can you take today to start aligning your actions with your long-term vision? Let's dive into some practical steps that you can apply immediately to overcome addiction and start building a life of self-control and resilience. Ready to take practical action? Let's move on to the next section and break down some Stoic techniques for overcoming addiction. Topic 5. Practical steps to apply Stoicism in overcoming addiction. Now that we've explored the underlying principles of Stoicism, let's get into the practical steps you can take to apply these powerful ideas to your own life, especially when it comes to overcoming addiction. Stoicism isn't just about philosophy for the sake of philosophy. It's about actionable steps that you can incorporate into your daily life to build mental strength, emotional control, and resilience. This is where Stoicism truly becomes a tool for personal transformation. First and foremost, one of the most important things you can do is to develop a daily routine of reflection. Stoics practiced this daily in the form of journaling, where they would reflect on their thoughts, actions, and emotions. This simple practice helps you identify patterns in your behavior and start to see how your mind works in relation to your impulses. Take 5 to 10 minutes each day to write down your thoughts. What triggered your urges? How did you respond? What could you have done differently? By examining your thoughts and actions, you gain awareness, and awareness is the first step to change. The more you reflect, the more you'll recognize your triggers and the patterns that keep you stuck in a cycle. When you start journaling, don't just focus on the negative. Celebrate the moments when you showed self-control or when you successfully resisted temptation. This helps build confidence and reinforces your belief that you are capable of overcoming your addiction. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Every small victory is a step towards building a stronger, more resilient you. Eventually, you'll start to see that overcoming addiction is a journey, not just a battle to be won. Another key Stoic practice to apply is mindfulness. This doesn't just mean meditation, although that's certainly a part of it. It's about being aware in the moment, noticing when an urge arises and taking a step back to assess it. In Stoic terms, this is about practicing the art of apatheia, or freedom from passion. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions or desires, but rather creating the space to observe them without immediately reacting. Imagine you're sitting in a room, and you notice an urge rising. Instead of acting on it right away, pause. Notice the sensation, the thoughts that come with it, and then gently ask yourself, what do I want more? A moment of temporary relief, or a lifetime of freedom from this addiction? This simple pause can make all the difference. Over time, as you become more skilled at this practice, you will find that your urges no longer have the power over you that they once did. In fact, this practice of pausing and responding intentionally becomes second nature. Next, let's talk about the concept of negative visualization, a technique that may seem counterintuitive but is incredibly effective. This practice, premeditatio malorum, is about imagining the worst-case scenario. It's not about living in fear or negativity. Rather, it's about preparing your mind for the discomfort that might arise. When it comes to addiction, this means mentally rehearsing the feeling of giving in to your temptation and fully experiencing the consequences in your mind. Visualize the guilt, the disappointment, and the setback that will follow. But here's the twist. Once you've imagined the worst, think about how you would handle it. How would you get back on track? What would you do differently next time? This process helps you build emotional resilience. Instead of avoiding the discomfort of temptation, you face it head-on, which makes it easier to endure in real life. The more you practice visualizing the consequences and mentally preparing yourself, the more empowered you will feel to make better choices. Additionally, setting boundaries is a crucial step in applying Stoicism to addiction. When you're dealing with an urge, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. But Stoicism teaches us to control what is within our power. One way to do this is by setting clear, healthy boundaries for yourself. This could mean eliminating triggers in your environment or scheduling activities that keep your mind occupied. For instance, if you find that you're more likely to give in when you're alone or bored, try filling that time with a productive activity, something that aligns with your values, like reading, exercising, or even practicing meditation. The idea is to prevent yourself from being in situations that encourage indulgence, making it easier for you to stay on course. Building mental fortitude requires consistent effort. Just like a physical workout, mental training is about repetition and perseverance. Each time you resist an urge or follow through with a Stoic practice, you are building your resilience and inner strength. And remember, progress is not always linear. Some days will be harder than others, but every step forward counts. The more you practice, the more it will become ingrained in your way of thinking, until making the right choice becomes second nature. As you start applying these Stoic techniques, you will notice subtle but profound changes in the way you handle your impulses. You'll become more grounded, more aware, and more capable of making decisions that align with your long-term goals. But it's important to remember that this process takes time. Stoicism teaches us to embrace patience. Overcoming addiction is a marathon, not a sprint. It's not about beating yourself up over setbacks, but about recognizing that every step, no matter how small, is a part of the larger journey. Now, let's talk about one more critical element of Stoicism that will help you stay on track: persistence and patience. This is not just about pushing through challenges. It's about being kind to yourself when things don't go perfectly. The Stoics understood that life is a series of trials, but they also knew that persistence, even in the face of failure, is the path to true freedom. Ready to build that patience and persistence? Let's explore how this mindset will support your journey. Topic 6. The importance of patience and persistence. When it comes to overcoming addiction, whether it's masturbation or any other destructive behavior, patience and persistence are the pillars that will keep you grounded and moving forward. Stoicism teaches us that change doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent effort, time, and most importantly, resilience in the face of setbacks. It's not about achieving perfection, but about making progress, no matter how small. This journey isn't about expecting instant results. It's about embracing the process and understanding that true transformation comes with time, effort, and a continual commitment to the work. One of the core Stoic beliefs is that external events are not within our control, but how we respond to them is. In the context of addiction, this means that while you cannot always control when an urge will arise or how difficult it might be to resist, you can control how you respond to it. Patience is not about waiting for things to get easier. It's about understanding that the process of change takes time. It's about giving yourself permission to be imperfect while still striving to improve. You don't have to be perfect right away, and there's no shame in taking the time you need to improve. It's about building resilience in your response, not in perfect behavior. Imagine you're running a marathon. At first, the distance feels overwhelming. You may stumble, tire, or even consider giving up. But with each step, you build endurance. It's the same with overcoming addiction. At times, it might feel like you've taken a step backward, but that's part of the process. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This freedom is earned through persistence, by continuing to push forward even when the path isn't easy. The key is to trust the process. Just as in a marathon, you need to pace yourself, and with each step, you become more resilient. Here's the thing, you will face setbacks. It's inevitable. But Stoicism encourages us to view setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to practice virtue. Every time you resist an urge or fall short, you're given a chance to reflect, learn, and try again with renewed clarity. It's this resilience in the face of challenges that builds mental fortitude. The key is persistence, showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that, over time, the cumulative effort will lead to growth. Think about the importance of small, consistent actions. Instead of expecting dramatic overnight change, Stoicism urges you to focus on doing the right thing consistently, even if it's just one small step at a time. Over time, those small actions compound and lead to significant transformation. For example, if today you resist the urge even for a few minutes longer than yesterday, that's progress. Tomorrow, you can push that time even further. These small victories don't seem like much at the time, but they accumulate. Eventually, they become monumental in your journey toward change. But persistence doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or forcing yourself to be perfect. It's about being realistic and compassionate with yourself. When you slip up, don't beat yourself up. Understand that setbacks are part of the human experience. What matters is how you pick yourself up and keep going. This is where mental fortitude comes in. Your ability to get back on track, no matter how many times you fall, is what will ultimately help you break free from the addiction. You don't define yourself by your mistakes, but by how you rise from them. One powerful Stoic practice that supports this is the idea of amor fati, loving your fate. This doesn't mean that you love every struggle or challenge, but it means embracing them as opportunities for growth. Instead of resenting the challenges that come with overcoming addiction, you accept them as part of the journey. You learn to appreciate the process, knowing that it's shaping you into a stronger, more resilient person. By accepting each setback and challenge as part of your growth, you transform hardship into fuel for your mental strength. As you continue on this journey of overcoming addiction, remember that patience is your ally. The road may be long, but each day that you continue to practice Stoic principles, each day that you persist, you are one step closer to regaining control and building the life you desire. And as you grow stronger, you'll find that the challenges become less daunting, and your resilience becomes your second nature. With time, patience, and persistence, you will look back and realize how far you've come. So, now that we've explored the importance of patience and persistence, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. As we wrap up, let's quickly recap the journey we've just taken. We've learned that overcoming addiction, whether it's masturbation or any other harmful habit, is not about fighting your impulses. It's about mastering your mind, aligning your actions with your long-term goals, and embracing the Stoic principles that help you build mental resilience and emotional control. Remember, the path to breaking free isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about practicing self-control daily, even when you face setbacks. Every small victory, every time you resist temptation, brings you closer to the freedom you seek. You've got the tools, the techniques, and the wisdom of Stoicism to help you along the way. Now, it's up to you to take action. So, here's my challenge to you. Start applying what you've learned today. Begin with journaling, practicing mindfulness, and using Stoic techniques to build your mental strength. And remember, patience is key. Stay committed to your journey, and you will find the freedom you've been searching for. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. We're all in this journey of growth together, and your support helps bring these Stoic tools to more people who need them. Don't wait. Your freedom and mental resilience are waiting for you. It's time to take control.